Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of the USL show. We are into the end of it. It is now to the point of we have a Dogwood Derby, USL League One final. We have our semifinals where the Battery continue to do their dang thing. The Indomitable are indomitable. Phoenix are the villains of California, and Blue City truly is inevitable. Mario, how are you doing?
Woohoo! Yeah. Happy Halloween to everyone out there. Really excited to be talking about what's just a really eventful week all around. Like really sick semifinal games, lovely stuff out of League One. So thrilled to be here.
To clarify, he didn't have this on in the green room earlier before we started.
No.
He put it on during the theme. So,
all right, Ryan.
I'm doing well. Happy Halloween. I thought I'd bust out the Bayern Munich kit because my worst nightmare is coming true of Harry Kane is doing well somewhere else. But Cowtails are the best Halloween candy to put out that hot take to start the show.
Whoa. Okay. Okay. I didn't think we were going there, but we're here. Okay. Why? Why is that your why?
They're just the best Halloween candy in my opinion, and you can't find them pretty much anywhere except for like old-time general stores or gas stations in the middle of nowhere. And it's like always a treat to have them everywhere. So Cowtails are my favorite Halloween candy.
I mean, all right. Okay.
Do I know what a cowtail is? Maybe
It's
not.
the caramel. It's the like melted caramel with the kind of cream filling.
Oh, okay, sure. That's a winner.
See, for me, it was always because I'm not a big candy guy. I don't eat a lot of candy. I was always stoked when I got Rolos.
That's a great one.
What
That was
about
my
you?
thing as a kid. Yeah, I'm a Reese's Cup guy. The chocolate peanut butter just is a winner.
I hate Reese's. That's
Okay,
I
that's
hate
fair.
them. It's just chocolate and peanut butter does not do it for me.
Some
Yeah.
people are like that. I respect it. Yeah.
Oh well. Let's go ahead and hop into. Hey, yeah, we talked about it at the top of the show. Dogwood Derby. It's here. It finally has a name, and we have it in the finals. And there was a while where we all said that this could happen. And then Charlotte kind of fell off for a minute. North Carolina kind of fell off for a minute. Omaha became the hot thing in the streets. Northern Colorado became the hot thing in the streets. There was a lot happening, and then we're here. The final goes through North Carolina, which imagine saying this time last year. No world did we think that either Charlotte or North Carolina were going to be in a final, let alone North Carolina FC hosting it. Insane to think about the turnaround that they had and how everybody got here. I mean, I want to start with Omaha first because how many times did I read on Twitter and how many times did I just look at it and said 33 shots? Oh my God.
Sometimes you get FM'd.
Yeah. The thing is though, and I don't want to be rude to Omaha, and there's a little bit that we'll talk about with Omaha as well. But yeah, we talk about the 33 shots, but and it was just 5 on net. I get it. They were good chances, right? But and you want to ride pack as long as you can, but you have 5 on net and like should they go in? Yes. Was it incredible that they kept a clean sheet and kept them out of the back of the net? Yes. But when you're taking that many shots, you want a little bit more. When you're looking percentages, it's like, is that 33 number as crazy as it may look?
So, I mean, in terms of expected goals, Omaha held the advantage 3.4 to 0.6 in this game. Like, they utterly dominated. They had the brunt of the chances. it's kind of the classic thing with how this Omaha team breaks you down, where they're so good about the interchange on the wings. What they get from Brewer and Akoff at those wingback or fullback spots is really fantastic. And it's set up in a way that takes advantage of the Independence's weaknesses. But Pack, man, I mean, he was the best keeper in the league in the regular season by my numbers. Like, he was worth 11 or 12 saves or goals saved above average, which is incredible to think about. He showed why on the night. The guy just has the instinct. He felt like he had every single read right in that match. He did enough to get them over the line. And that's not to disparage what the Independents have going elsewhere on the pitch. Tons of name brand talent on that team that you could argue is good enough to slot into a lot of championship teams. But Omaha has been so well drilled, and it took that game from Pack to get the job done.
The thing though, and because XG is important, right? But whenever I'm looking at this stuff, I'm also looking at like what they call XCG, basically competitive shots, right? Shots that actually made it on frame, right? They had less. It was 0.96, right? Of the shots they took, there was really only one, and I'm trying to remember it exactly, but it was that shot by Kunga that at the very top of the box that had the best chance of going in, but the rest were kind of not easy saves, but they're ones that generally don't have a good chance of going in anyway. The number I think is more jarring than what they were actually doing.
Yeah, it was a lot of chances rather than a few good chances, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, and to kind of like really haunt the fears of a lot of Omaha fans was the last time they scored a USL One playoff goal was in the final that they had in 2021. They got shut out last season against Chattanooga. They get shut out this season. I mean, you compare it to like the time Tottenham, the last time they scored a Champions League knockout goal was Lucas Moura in Amsterdam.
Yeah. You know, the biggest thing with this, and this kind of comes down to the same point that I made before we got here, that long break. Who knows? I think there's a little bit of Omaha thinking, God, we were hot. Like the last thing we wanted was a break. Yeah, getting rested up is cool, but I mean, maybe there's going to be a USL person reach out to us and say, you're an idiot, right? But how much does a week get you in terms of getting healthy?
They got North Carolina a final.
I mean, that's true. That's a good point, but nobody was as hot as Omaha was, right? To go from blazing hot to just having to sit there has to be a little bit of, or a lot of momentum lost.
I mean, if you think about the form that this team in particular was running with, where it had been months and months since they'd lost a game, they had the long win streak. They feel like they're particularly susceptible to losing that groove just because of how good it's been. You make a good point, obviously, Ryan, to say, look, North Carolina came out and played the better game against Northern Colorado. But at the same time, I don't know, it felt like Omaha was maybe just lacking a little bit of sharpness where it mattered at the business end of the pitch, maybe.
Since they expanded the playoffs to 6 teams in 2021, where they've had 2 teams get the first round bye, we are exactly 3-3 on the higher seeds winning that semifinal.
Interesting. Well, I want to go ahead. I want to just think about this other side of, I guess, let's stay on Omaha because we're going to talk a lot about this final, right? We're going to really break down this final because this is the final, right? But Peter Marlette's gone. November 17th is his last day, who is the general manager of Union Omaha. And, you know, it's one of those things that, I mean, yes, friend of the podcast, but also he's been there for a long time. And we want to talk about just continuity because the move away from Jay Mims hurt for a minute. That one was hard. And to lose the guy that kind of put this all together, how big of an impact is this going to have on Omaha in general. And hi, Alan.
Sup?
No, I
Um,
mean, what Marlatt has done is really just come in and be the architect of so much of what has made Omaha successful. What's been impressive this season is that over the past couple of years, you've lost the Conways, the Viadairs, et cetera, et cetera. It's almost in some ways a new core that they've brought together here. They had a really good offseason, bringing in a lot of guys with championship experience, whether it's Dos Santos, Alexis Swahi, the kind of players that can really bring in that veteran experience. And no, it didn't pay off in the playoffs, but it's a huge reason why they got to where they were. Kind of fiddling around the edges of the Noe Metsas, the Connor Doyle types who have been the rock for a while. Marlatt just brings that level of expertise as to how you need to build a squad, and he's really going to be missed in that regard.
yeah, I just kind of have to wonder. And hey, time for me to think out loud. Um, we get Marlette leaving, and Harks is gone out of Greenville. Could we be seeing like a League One making a jump up and just fully taking over a championship or MLS team?
It would be cool to see, Hartford just announced today that Amanda is not going to be back. So you think maybe bringing a Harks, have someone to complement Sikevich up there. I would love it if they gave. I mean, that's how the pipeline should work, right? If you kill it in League One, you should be able to take the step up.
Can I say something absolutely awful? I don't trust Hartford to make the right choice at all.
Oh no.
I mean, it's awful, but they've always seemed to have this layup or something come up where it feels like they have the right choice, and then it just doesn't work, or they just don't seem to make the right one, or they were just a little bit late on somebody. And I don't know, Harks and Marlette together in Hartford would be kind of crazy.
I think it also kind of depends on where you want to see these these coaches and general managers kind of go for their next step in their careers. Someone like Harks could see himself as a bit more ambitious than taking over a team that his triumph side could probably have beaten this season in Hartford, or that he could see himself as like, hey, there's a few MLS jobs that I could put my name in the hat for, or I could hold out for a USL team that doesn't start the season hot next season and say, hey, I'm waiting in the wings if you want to bring me in at that point. And I think what's going to be really interesting looking at Union Omaha moving forward is you talk about how having someone who have built the kind of core and kind of kept rebuilding the team is the mark of a really good general manager. Is the team set up well to succeed even beyond their own tenure and has the legacy that they left? Can it continue onwards, or is it susceptible to being destroyed in a season?
For sure.
I just to say, I feel like Omaha has a culture around that front office, around what they've done, moving on from Mims, sustaining the success that I think it's institutional there in a way that Marlatt has probably laid a groundwork. I could be proven wrong, but they just seem to have their things together in Omaha in a way that's going to make them continue to be one of the titans of League One.
Let's go ahead and go over to this other side of the Dogwood Derby final. And let's just talk about North Carolina. North Carolina, the team I said very beginning of our playoff preview show that I said was going to win League One. And a lot of it came down to the fact that they've just been kind of good all year. They had little stretches of being bad, but they weren't streaky like other teams. And you just kind of trust what they have going for them. McLaughlin is still absolutely crazy. Jaden Cervania kind of playing as a forward, also as a cam, also as whatever they need him to be, is really nice to see. Anderson has been an underrated stud. I feel like he hasn't had his praises sung really enough, but Anderson has been absolutely stunning. Any other year besides this year with Amon, who they just beat, we're talking about 17 goals in a season. and he's an afterthought. And I feel like that's where a lot of the lack of North Carolina love has come from. It's just they have really good players, right? But they always just seem to not have the statistical prowess that another team may have, or the name recognition that another team may have. And hey, here they are. They absolutely dismantle NoCo. I mean, NoCo gets their opportunities, they get a goal, but it's just not enough for what North Carolina can do. And it's what we said preseason with North Carolina. Their attack, which is basically just become Chattanooga East a little bit, and which that attack was crazy last year. And they're proving it again. And this is going to be at home.
This game was almost misleadingly close. Just to cite the XG kind of thing again, Omaha, what am I saying? The Hailstorm, they had 4 shots that were worth 0.1 expected goals or more. And almost every single one of them came when the game was already 3-0 and over. Like, North Carolina was stifling when it mattered. You mentioned Olex Anderson there. What he did without the ball in that kind of 4-4-2, 4-2-4 press, constantly closing down at an angle where his shadow was denying Arthur Rogers in the midfield, completely changed the game. Like, this is a guy who, yeah, he got 17 goals, but he really puts in that effort when he needs to. And he plays with, I mean, he's never going to be the guy who's like winning the ball on the press and the tackle, but he puts himself in the right positions to be able to clog up those passing lanes. And it made the Hailstorm not be able to function in the way that they want to. Amon has been a beast all year. He had 3 shots, all of which were off target on the night. Really stifling stuff from John Bradford in North Carolina. Really impressed with what they did.
Yeah, with Colorado, I think one of their strengths early in the season was being able to just defend really well. And I think once, you see this game, North Carolina putting shots on target from range even and really testing the goalkeeper. The first one goes in and you're like, hey, Colorado can probably pull something out. They got some goal scorers, but the way that North Carolina was attacking and getting really good looks, it was only a matter of time. And when the second one goes in the second half, I think it was like, hey, this is North Carolina's night, and good for them. I think, after seeing what happened with Omaha, I think, soccer playoffs are crazy where wild things happen. So for a team to kind of take control and really put Colorado on the back foot is impressive. And then just to shake off all of the narratives of, upsets in the East of the championship, it's credit to them for putting together a really good performance and taking care of business when it really mattered.
I mean, this is 21 consecutive games that North Carolina has scored, and you talk about how tremendous the attack is. That's pretty unreal form. That's 21 consecutive games. That predates what Omaha had going into playoffs on their unbeaten run in their own right. And then you couple that with the fact that in USL 1, the team that's hosted the final has yet to lose the final, and it's just looking for a incredibly great circumstances for NCFC to go into the final, get a result, and I keep joking about it as I've done all playoffs, win promotion.
The one player that we haven't mentioned for North Carolina, which probably deserves the most love, is Rafael Mensigan. Mm-hmm. He gets overshadowed by just a lot of, I guess, other players in the league. And I'm not really too sure why, because he is incredible. And he put in his shift. I mean, he gets his 2 assists on the night last weekend against NoCo. And he's just been kind of quietly doing that all year from that left or right wing, wherever they need him. Jaden Cervania comes on, he can go over to the right. Jaden Cervania is not on, he can go over to the left. He goes wherever he needs to go. And he provides wherever he goes. It's not like he only provides down one side. They put him on both sides because he brings different things, whether it be goals or assists. And you kind of have to wonder, does this back line, does this attack, or for this defense, just in general, for oh my gosh, Charlotte have what it takes to withstand all of those guys? And you would have to say yes, based off what they did against Omaha. But like we talked about as well, Omaha didn't exactly put their best chances forward. It's not like they were really just busting down the hatches. They took shots, but they were just, you know, they didn't get them all on target. This might be a different ball game.
For me, the thing is that, I mean, speaking of someone we haven't mentioned for North Carolina, how about David Garcia at center back, who ended up scoring a brace in this game? Kid's a rookie who, I mean, he tore it up for Florida International at school, but to do that in the postseason is unreal. And he had him on in his pocket all night, and you can see him repeating that performance against Mbuyu if they bring Dane Kelly in. It feels like this is something that is repeatable for North Carolina in a way that bodes well for their hopes. I don't want to count Charlotte out, though, because they can bring so much firepower in the attacking half. They can get really aggressive if they've got Flanagan and Joel Johnson at those fullback spots. They've got the juice to win this game and provide a challenge that's a little bit distinct from what North Carolina took advantage of last week, in that the hailstorm, yes, they're a very deep team. You've got Powder, you've got, Rendon, so many players in that team that are good, but they figured out, listen, if we keep Rodgers and Amon in our back pocket, it's going to be a lot easier. I think the Independents are more of a Hydra where they can beat you in a lot of ways, and that's going to be an interesting dynamic for this one.
Another player that I kind of want to highlight for North Carolina is Brooks Thompson, which he's a part of this goalie room where the oldest person who has played for them was born in 1998. Like, their oldest goalkeeper is like 25. And he's played. Brooks Thompson takes over for Nick Holiday, which Nick Holiday, if you don't remember, was the next stud. He was going to be the next best prospect to come out of the U.S. for a while, because he was like 15 years old having to play for North Carolina. He was playing well because Jake McGuire got suspended for North Carolina like 2 years ago, and then suddenly Nick Holiday had a job, and he was a stud. And Brooks Thompson's come in just a couple years older and has been really good for them. And since they made that change after the Lexington game, Thompson has been quietly one of the better keepers that you're going to see in the league. He's kept the ball out of the back of the net, which is what you ask, and he's done it against really good teams. The only real blemish on his record is that 4-3 loss to North Carolina. Other than that, dude's played incredibly well, and he might be a match for Pack when you're talking about goalkeeper versus goalkeeper comps.
He's somebody who debuted in the championship with I don't know if they were Swope Park Rangers or SKC2 at that point, but like 2018, 2019, when he was, Nick Holiday aged. So a lot of experience there, despite the fact that he's a younger guy.
So when we're looking at this one, you can kind of look at just the names. Joel Johnson, you have your Dane Kellys, you have those kind of guys for Charlotte. You have Menzigan, who did spend a little bit of time in the championship. You have all these different kind of players like McGoughlin and so on and so forth. This is going to be fun. Especially since, Charlotte to Cary, I get it. It is a bit of a travel, but also one of the closer away days that you're going to have in League One. It's obviously an in-state derby, and this one's bound to be a lot of fun when you talk about atmosphere-wise, too. It's not often that you get a final in the United States in the soccer world that the away fan can actually travel to. Most of the time it's across the country. Most of the time it's multi hours away. People have friends that live in Cary. People have friends that live around there. They can stay for a night and they can just get home. No big deal. This one's bound to be fun. And I'm excited to see how many Charlotte fans make the trip over, and how many North Carolina fans really show out to try to fill out the stadium to make sure as little Charlotte fans get into the stadium as possible.
I mean, it reminds me of the 2012 USL Pro Final, which was between Charleston and Wilmington, and that final to have another old previous All Carolina match.
Yeah, you hope that the Independence fans kind of look at this one and say, "Let's go."
All right, who do you have, John?
I have North Carolina.
Alan.
Yeah, same. North Carolina.
Oh God.
Ryan. Ryan.
North Carolina in a lock.
I'm also taking North Carolina in a lock, which means Charlotte's going to win. Congratulations to the Independents on your victory. I'm taking the lock for this one, mainly because I don't feel good about any of the other conference finals, to be honest. I don't feel good about any of these predictions. This is when I hate that locks exist. Let's go ahead and move over to the championship, and let's go over to the best coast. Let's go over to the left coast. Let's go to the west coast, and I want to talk about Phoenix versus oh my gosh, Sacramento. And Phoenix hates California, just hates them. They go to California, they play well, and they played really well, and they are kind of becoming the cardiac kids. They just want to win an extra time. And then you're looking at Sacramento, who, hey, we'll talk about it in a second on this week's Tactics show. But it was a little cagey in the first half, and then it just looked as simple as you would like in the second. And was it exactly that simple? Not really, but Sacramento showed why they were number one, and there were at times in the second half where it felt like they were almost playing with their food. But
yeah, this is like, I think Phoenix is playing on an edge that maybe they haven't had to play on before. Like old school Phoenix in the playoffs was like, we've dominated you in the regular season, and then they kind of eke by on some penalty kicks. This is kind of like the opposite of, they played kind of poorly in the regular season, but even against San Diego at times, they were like the dominant team. They were playing with possession. Even though counterattacking is definitely one of their strengths too, they were able to maintain the ball and put, a team that likes to hold possession under pressure. It's not super surprising when Danny Trejo is hot again, right? I think this is the other thing, that some of the goals dried up for some of their attacking players, and that was one of their weaknesses, was their finishing wasn't as good. They weren't getting the goals from the guys that they used to get goals from. And now that those guys are heating back up again, we're seeing that Phoenix team that's going to be really hard to stop, that always has another goal in them, and doing just enough to get wins on the road before getting to PKs. And it reminds me a little bit of that 20-game win streak they went on, where it seems as if they're going to survive because they believe they're going to survive, and that belief goes a long way. So good on Phoenix. It's impressive to see the way that they're playing, and getting some really timely goals from Danny Trejo is definitely helpful. So it feels like Phoenix has something to prove. The matchup with Sac Republic, I mean, the history is there, where Phoenix has been able to go to Sacramento and get some wins, but that was last season. So it's hard to say, because we said the same thing about Detroit and Pittsburgh, right? Don't you go to Highmark and you're not going to win. But I think if there's a team right now that can do some damage in Sacramento, the Phoenix team, I think, is one that has enough attacking options that can make it interesting. I'm sure we'll get to Sacramento in a second. But I think Sacramento is another team that really kind of dismantled San Antonio's defending, which is pretty impressive to do.
And I will say, if Phoenix does beat Sacramento in this final, I believe California is now legally a part of Arizona at this point with Didier Drogba as the new governor.
Pass.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah,
The
just
one
thinking
thing,
about that game
oh,
over the weekend. Yeah, sorry, Taylor. It didn't really start that well if you're thinking from the Rising perspective, despite the fact that, yes, Trejo gets in with that ball over the top where he scores and like does the classic Danny Trejo thing. But Orange County really controlled the game early on. They had, I think, 12-2 edge in shots in the first half, where that dynamic of Kyle Scott being pretty free to move around in the midfield, Ryan Dogman moving so far up from left back, and Alaski cutting inside. Phoenix just didn't have an answer for it. Part of it was because Rising tend to push their wingbacks and their wider center backs upfield in possession, and it leaves them a bit vulnerable. And credit to Juan Guerra, who really reoriented how he wanted those players to position themselves in the second half, really solidified things, tended to drop Derek Formella a bit deeper in possession to kind of make a midfield three and match what Orange County was doing. And I mean, the knock-on effect for that was Trejo had more space forward upfield. So Phoenix really controlled the second half and most of extra time, putting in Emil Cuello at the end to get that goal, putting him in kind of that box-to-box number 8 spot and trusting that he could do the job. Really the masterstroke that put them over the top. But I was so impressed with everything that Guerra did to win that game. I think that's a really good sign that he's willing to think on his feet. He's not afraid to make changes, and he's not beholden of that system.
That's kind of what I was going to get to with Phoenix was they weren't playing well in what you traditionally think is Gariball, right? You think about that 3 at the back system, that 3 to 5 back system that he had in Oakland, and one that sometimes inexplicably he would force upon Phoenix last year. And you saw him do that. It worked pretty well against Loyal last week. I know it wasn't always a 3-5 man, but it kind of worked that way. And they kind of started like that again this week. Did not work well. And that floating between a 4-4-2 versus 4-3-3 that they were going with in this match versus Orange County, after that 30-minute mark and they made the change, it just felt like Phoenix was just a completely different team. And Formella has become a guy in this playoffs that I think more USL teams are really going to pay attention to, because you get caught up in your Trejos, your Armanakis, your Arteagas in this team, and Formella kind of becomes the forgotten cat of the group, right? He's just kind of forgotten in the wayside, and people know those front 3, but he's not as remembered. He's become the story of this team in my mind, and I've been really impressed watching him a little bit more in depth as the playoffs have started.
Well, what a brave choice on Juan Guerra's part to look at Manuel Arteaga, who had 15 goals in the regular season, and say, listen, I love what you did, but we need somebody who's got a little bit more skill on the ball, a little more fluidity in what he's doing with his movement. Formella brought that to the table, and he's somebody that they traded for mid-season while I think he ended up leading the Oakland Roots in goals scored, even though he got traded halfway through the year, which, I mean, says a lot about Oakland's finish. But Formella's a class player, and he's making a real difference in this run.
Speaking of Oakland, $3 million raised in their community funding, and that is crazy. I know that people from Oakland love Oakland more than just about any other city in the US, but $3 million. I don't think anybody thought that a team in the US was going to community raise $3 million within what was it been, a month, maybe 2?
Yeah, the town showed up.
And they're announcing celebrity investors every day. Like, it was Gary Payton II and Kalen Carr today, I think, and they're just rolling it out every single day. So it's really cool to see the way that they've built. I mean, they're like the community club at this point. That they do such a good job of really galvanizing everyone who cares about Oakland as a place and a community and a shared experience to come out and support that team. It's just awesome.
I mean, is there anywhere we get Billy Joel Armstrong on? Do you think we could just reach out to Tommy and be like, "Hey, you know the guy." Like,
Shoot your shot.
shoot your shot. Might as well, right? Let's quickly go over to Sacramento, where John, you did the USL Tactics show, so we're going to let you from like a couple days ago explain what happened.
And I was going to the Western Conference Finals, and they've got there because of the changes they made to take advantage of a very aggressive back three that San Antonio brought to the table on Friday night. As you can see here, San Antonio aggressively pushed the members of their back line up to deny what the Republic wanted to do as they built out and restarted, and Sacramento somewhat played into the strategy by going very long and very direct early on in the match. Out of the halftime whistle, Mark Briggs made a really smart change, bringing Damia Villader on at the left wing back spot to add a little bit more punch to what Sacramento was doing and to give them numbers and control by way of their wing backs. Here you see Jack Gurr make a run inside from the right flank, whereas Villader hugs the sideline a little bit more, earning a corner kick that is ultimately going to lead to that opening goal for the Republic, and it's Villader getting the assist. This is the impact of getting those extra bodies into the mix, making sure that every single step up from a San Antonio defender would be punished. Now, San Antonio responded by bringing on an extra striker. So Sacramento deepened things out by pushing Nick Ross into more of a true number 6 position, and crucially, bringing Luther Archimed on at the striker position. You're going to see some of the impact here where Sacramento gets the stop because of what Nick Ross is doing in coverage. Really, San Antonio was frustrated as they tried to build with that 3 striker shape, and they really couldn't get a whole lot done. But that's largely in part because of what you got from Ross and because of those very inspired changes that Mark Briggs went for. Archimed was crucial down the stretch. San Antonio pushed their wingbacks higher and higher and stuck with those aggressive central defenders. So someone with the pace of an Archimed, as you see here, was able to get into the channel and create spaces for his teammates to score within. This is just a splendid play from Sacramento to break through Archimed and then send waves of runners into the box to ultimately get the goal. You're going to see it once again, and it really is a unification of the trends. Archimed gets the touch, he dummies it back through to Villader, and he's in on goal to seal the game and will be a 3-1 win. This was utterly perfect from Mark Briggs in the managerial spot, and it's why the Republic are going to the conference final.
And with that, I was just super impressed. That run of play in, what was that, the 87th, where go through, hit the post, regain, go through. You think he's going to take the one time, just gives a little pass off and finish. Just gross. And it was just so much fun. It was one of those that I was watching it live and I just said, man, I wish I was there. It was just one of those moments that's like, that looks like that's a lifetime memory moment. It looked so much fun to be out in Sacramento. And like you kind of mentioned, the substitutes did it. It was cagey. There were moments in the first half where you're thinking San Antonio might nick this. They might be able to take this to extra time or win this in regulation. And you never know what happens if it gets there. And then you get Briggs who makes the big change and it works perfectly. Does the final result kind of flatter Sacramento? Yeah, I mean, San Antonio was chasing the game a little bit, but also, I don't know if it does fully flatter them because they played that well in the second half. I think 3 goals is about right.
I think with that goal and the first goal, it was players making kind of like the selfless choice and the correct pass to find the open player, to find the guy has the better shot in a way that wasn't like forcing the ball, right? You've seen that like try to be fancy. It was like there were nice plays, but instead of shooting from distance, he plays it to the side because the defenders are collapsing around him and leaves, Cicerone open for the first goal. And the second goal was you expect him to do something different with it. And it's kind of a cheeky pass to the inside to set up, a really dangerous shot on target where you're either going to make the goalkeeper's either going to make, a stretch save that could lead to something, or you're going to get a goal. So it was really like the players also making really smart choices with where they played the ball and to kind of find the open man. Because there was time, like all 3 goals, I think San Antonio looked like they were kind of scrambling a little bit on defense, out of sorts, and like not necessarily out of shape on the first one, but like players ball watching and leaving guys open that you probably shouldn't leave in the box open. So it was, I've seen games where the guys try to go for glory and end up like blasting it into a block shot or shooting it over. So Sacramento's, the players were also making some really smart plays.
And the last time San Antonio had lost a game by 3-1 was against Sacramento.
I mean, makes sense. The biggest thing that for me is that you saw players just for San Antonio just look completely out of sorts. And you know what? San Antonio fans have been talking about this all year long about this back line isn't what it was, and they're more discombobulated than normal, and they're not as put together as last year. But as an outside perspective, and listen, San Antonio fans, this is every fan ever. You know your team better than we do, right? While yes, you watch every single minute of the game, and all of us try our hardest, to see every single minute, every single game. You know the ins and outs a little bit better than we do most of the time. But it does feel like it got worse after Farr was dropped. It just does. And I'm not saying that Farr changes the results here, but some of the craziness, like chicken with the head cut off moments, I'm not saying they don't happen, but having someone who's been through it in the playoffs before, has done it before, you kind of want that. And it felt like this was a weirdly inexperienced team, even though they just won it all last year, which was bizarre to watch. You're muted. John, you're muted, man.
Don't know how that happened. Yeah, I mean, San Antonio, they're going to have ended the season now in their final 12 games. They won twice. Like, they really soured at the end of the year. Some of that comes down to the fact that they run a really demanding system. They had a lot of injuries. There was a lot of pressure put on these players. It's hard when you come up against the team like the Republic, who are so well drilled, who, as Ellen really effectively pointed out, are so unselfish. They're willing to wait you out and goad San Antonio into those mistakes where, because of the aggression that they always have at the back, they're going to have Tainter step up a little bit too high, leave that gap in behind, have the room to take advantage. And that comes with what Alan Marcino wants to do, right? Like, playing with that pressure, getting themselves out into transition because of it is the bread and butter of why San Antonio has been so good. But the Republic this year, they've got the magic. They've got a real sense of poise and comfort. And I think I mentioned it a bit in the tactics show, but the decision to play Nick Ross in the attacking midfield these past 2 games has been really inspired. He played there a bit in July, even though he's just to fill in for injuries at that point. Sacramento's healthy now, and they choose to put him there because he has the skill set of like a number 6 or a number 8. He can really fend off the press. He makes those smart movements inside. And hey, it paid off again. And it'll be curious to see if he gets the start or if Mark Briggs is really just going for whatever the matchup dictates because he has that luxury.
And this match certainly felt like a passing the torch, if you will, about the just mentality monsters. John, you'd mentioned it with Sacramento having the magic. I think at some point in this season for San Antonio, we saw it within their final 12 games that the grind of the year and trying to maintain that same mentality of defending the title and repeating expectations from last season, it really got to them. I mean, we talk about how the defense is so different. You had 19 shutouts from San Antonio last season in total to only just 10 this season.
Yeah, and to Nicholas Murray's point in the chat, so if you're a person who listens to this later, we obviously do this live. Nicholas Murray, which, by the way, subscribe to the Rondo. Very good stuff happening there.
By the way, the Rondo today, unreal best 11 of Halloween name puns. So
I was literally about to mention Jack Gurr. That one got me. That one really got me.
Nightmare Pickering, unreal.
But hey, subscribe. But Sacramento, I mean, he said if you're not a person who's live, Sacramento doesn't feel like the best team in USL championship history, but it feels like a team that can beat you any way that they want, basically. And it still feels like Sacramento ball. They're going to roll out there with the 5-man back. Jack Kerr's going to bomb it up the right side, and whoever's up top, whether you get Roro, who's if he's playing or not, whether you get Cicerone up top or if he's playing the wing, that is kind of what it is. But whether they want to bomb it up the wings, they can do that. Do they want to go straight up the middle through the spine? They can do that. You want to lump it long because we're counterattacking today? We can do that. Today we're deciding that we actually wanted to hold possession for the first time and catch you off guard. They can do that. They have every style to catch you on the back foot that you could ever ask for. When you're looking at these 15-minute phases of play, right, where every 15 minutes you're seeing whatever momentum change is happening, they can give you a different style every single one of those 15 minutes, and it does not look awkward in the slightest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to move into picks if that's good.
Yeah, that's where we're supposed to roll.
I mean, it just feels like this Sacramento team has that inevitability, and I've got them as my lock here. I think defensively, we've not shouted out the fact that they're insane, like Danny Vitiello, the Golden Glove. It's crazy that there's so much talent and flexibility in that offense that we can ignore the fact that they gave up 26 goals in 34 games. Like
Donovan's a freak. Donovan is a freak.
Exactly where I was going. Like if there's anyone who can take advantage of his God-given skills to shut down Danny Trejo, it's Donovan. I think Timmer and Wheat in those wide center back spots are unreal as well. They're never going to be caught out in a way that Phoenix is going to take advantage of. If you're Juan Guerra, I'm really curious to see what the counterpunch is. I don't know how to beat the Sacramento team, but he's smarter than I am by a mile. So curious to see the matchup, but I've got the Republic.
I mean, Alan is having to hop off, but we can find his pick later. Ryan?
For the record, Alan had Sacramento in a lock as well, and I've picked Sacramento to win this one too. I think there's just so much going for this team, who's oddly making their first ever appearance in the Western Conference Final. Basically a decade after they'd appeared in the original USL final in their debut season. And I feel like they're going to be too much for Phoenix here, but I expect for it to be at least a very competitive game.
I'm taking Sacramento, but I want to say this. If this makes it down to pins, if somehow the Phoenix team becomes this cardiac kids again, where they take you all the way down and they really grind it out, Rocco Rios Novo, he might be one of the better penalty savers in the league. And this is something I've talked about in the past when I talk about being able to watch, because what I do when I get down to the games, I get down onto the field and watch, right? Technically, Novo is flawless. His technique is incredible, and he's so fast. He's a shorter goalkeeper, which means he can move across the line so quickly that he may not have to just guess. He can wait a second, react, and I think he's going to be a real star if this gets down to penalties. That said, if it gets down to penalties, I think everyone is shocked because, yes, I am taking Sacramento. But let's go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, one more note there. Both Rios Novo and Vitiello have saved 3 of 12 penalties they faced in their career. So,
I mean, Rios.
Not to discredit, like you have.
Oh no,
but yeah.
No, I mean Rios Novo. I mean, you kind of have to. I mean, not to say that this fully matters, but playing for ATL too. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not saying he wasn't trying, but there's also a little bit of the I should be in the first team and I'm not. But yeah, let's go over to the East Coast where, by God, Lou City just finds a way. every single year. For people who are new to the USL, 9 straight Eastern Conference Finals, which, if you're a baseball fan, that is more than the Houston Astros have made their American League conference, or whatever they call them, the championship series. They have made it 7. This is 9 years. We are almost to a decade of Lou City in the Eastern Conference Finals. Yes, they were doing it against Detroit City. I get it. They were the number 8, but also they scored goals, lots of goals, versus I called at one point the best back line, best defense in the USL. Meanwhile, Charleston gets a little gutsy down at Patriots Point. They take on a red hot Legion team and they pull out a great result. They put pressure on via the corner, and they do their pieces, which just put absolute carnage on back lines. They're sneaky, one of the best set piece teams in the league. And then, yeah, you can say a slightly lucky deflection or 3 goes into the back of the net on the second goal for Charleston, but also they earned it. They probably should have had more on the night. And we're getting to this weird thing of, are you voting for Pierman, who has the biggest turnaround in USL history? Are you voting for Lou City because, hey, it's legacy at this point? They just know how to win. All I know is that it's Pierman Cruz 3 in the Eastern Conference Final, and that's all that matters.
I'm not gonna lie, I forgot all about that angle, and I'm so much more excited than I already was for this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's there, and I'm excited.
I mean, I was just thinking earlier, like headed into the show, like you'd think the more things change, the more they just seem to stay the same. You have 2 of the teams in the conference finals who are here in 2020, who were here in 2018. Like you could show someone from 2018 this year's conference finals, and they'll say, "Yeah, that makes sense. I bet these teams are going to be fantastic for the next 5 years and all of that time." But like we talk about Louisville City this year having struggles on offense. I mean, this is the first time they've scored 4 goals since they did it against Loudoun last season. In fact, the previous time they scored 4 goals in a match last season was also against Charleston, which makes it a very interesting angle for a Louisville team who just knows how to get it done once you get to this point in the conference finals in their history more often than not.
I think the thing for me with Louisville in that game, I felt like they've kind of lost the plot in terms of that identity for a lot of this season, where even when they've been good, it's not been that classic Lou City style of that 4-3-3, 4-1-4-1-ish kind of press, the hard counter pressure, really engaging the entire team in that defensive effort and dominating territorially. You're never letting the opposing side get out of their own half. And that was absolutely what Lou City did in this game. It was shades of those teams from 2017, 2018, etc. Brian Ownby looked like a man possessed with how he was closing down on Michael Bryant. I thought the decision to go for Jorge Gonzalez on the right wing was especially influential as well. He brought really that matching energy, and he did a great job against Devin Amu-Mensah, who we talk about a ton as, I mean, an elite defender, but somebody who's really important in how Detroit initiates. And Gonzalez did a great job against him. Tyler Gibson as the safety net in the midfield, you could hardly tell the guy's 32 years old. He looked so good. It was a dominant effort. Detroit didn't get a shot on net until like the 60th minute or so, I want to say. It was just a Louisville domination from the get-go, and you have to be impressed with them. Can they keep it up against a team that isn't Detroit City? And no disrespect to Detroit, the fact that they got there is great, but I don't know. I still have some questions about the sustainability for Louisville, or if it was kind of just 1 week that was a little bit of a flash of the past.
Well, I think when you have the guys who showed up for the game, I think there is an argument to be kind of a flash of the past, right? Like, I don't think anytime I've watched Lou City, like, I think Ownby's drawing a penalty, right? That's like, I don't know what it is, but like every time I'm like, oh, I should watch this Louisville highlight, it's Ownby drawing a penalty. But I mean, Detroit City on the other side, it's like looking through the highlight reel, it's like a pass by a player. It's not even like a shot on goal. It's a good pass, and so I think that kind of highlights the how the two teams played. You know, it reminds you that Lancaster and OB are really good at soccer, and so is it sustainable? Maybe not, but you in the playoffs you don't need it to be sustainable. You just need to play a couple of good games in a row. Like it doesn't need to be long term. It can be a couple flash in the pan. But I think this is the matchup from the East that reminds me of like old school Eastern Conference games that I'm super excited about because it is a slightly different bag than maybe the traditional old school Western Conference ones. But I think this is a good sign for Lou City that they can do it in a game. So good on them. And then my heart hurt a little bit watching Kyle Adams get a hockey assist on one of the goals too. So this was old school Lou City, and they just have to do it 2 more times. And although their matchup is going to be much more challenging this next week.
There was the kind of comment that was made about Sharpie and him playing left back when I just know him as the center back, basically 30-year-old center back. It was a little jarring, but it was fun, and I felt like it was a good change for Louisville, where it still kind of functions as a 3-man back line, but it allows their midfield to get a little bit up a little bit more. I don't want to discredit Lou City more than I have to because, yes, they are built off of basically tradition of winning, right? But I still don't believe in them. I just don't. They haven't put it together for multiple games. I mean, John or Ryan could probably pull this up in a drop of a hat, but when's the last time they really put it together for multiple matches this season? Because I can't remember one off the top of my head. And if they did, was it against playoff teams, playoff caliber teams?
5 in a row, consecutive unbeaten was their longest streak of the regular season this year. And that was at the start of the year where they actually started the season with just 2 defeats in their first 9 games. Although one of those 2 defeats was a 5-0 destruction against Sacramento.
Yeah, and Louisville, just on that point, they had back-to-back wins against Colorado Springs and Oakland in that kind of August-September run. So you can say, that Oakland team was just about to start their collapse at that point. I mean, their last back-to-back wins before that were Indy and Tulsa, and Tulsa didn't make the playoffs either. So I think you're pretty valid. I do want to touch on the Sharpie thing a bit. He really didn't even play like a third center back at all. Like he was just straight up doing the left back thing all night. And I mean, there's been this tendency to kind of invert Oscar Jimenez on that side for a lot of the season. Sharpie just gives you a bit more energy and a bit more range at this point. Like Jimenez obviously is a legend of Lou City, a legend of this league. But I think Sharpie was so good about shutting down Detroit as they tried to break out into the opposing half. He gave a lot of energy in that game. He's going to be the guy going forward there.
Let's look at the other side of this battle down at Patriots Point, which is Charleston, where Charleston put it against Birmingham for a while. That said, it was a match. This was a close match, and it was fun. It was a ton of fun to watch. And I kind of mentioned it in the opening and talking about this one, but Charleston deserved to win here. I was going to say 3 points, but there are no points in the playoffs. But they deserved to win. But the match really changed when Birmingham made some of the weirdest substitutions you could imagine. And it felt like the game turned on its head from that point going forward. It's hard for me to see Louisville City making the same kind of substitution blunders, Danny Cruz making those same kind of blunders. So if Lou City is in this game, you don't expect a managerial mistake to be the thing that costs them either.
Speaking on that Birmingham thing, what did you see? Like, what were the Legion doing that kind of played into Charleston's hands?
Honestly, a lot of it was just the fact that you have a fullback playing center back, and I love Jake to death, but he's not Manuel Kavita. There was a couple of times where Moses Mensah was being asked to play more wing back than fullback, and he got burned on the wings by Barajas, right? Where you kind of say he's being asked to do more than his body is really capable of doing. And that's not really fair to him. Same with, I think it was Dotson later, kind of the same thing to him. I think that the main thing that was slowing down Birmingham was that midfield, and the midfield of Charleston was really, really good. And there was at times where it was really disconnected for Birmingham. And to Ben's point, Birmingham didn't record a shot after about an hour, which is about the same time that you take off Tabor Teka Preston and even Wigbo, who were really the best players on the night, and they were taken off. And yeah, and I just final thing with how it played off in the end. At the very end, you're looking for someone with technical ability who's going to be able to break down a back line because they were going to park the bus. You're looking for someone who maybe has a little bit of speed if they can get into an opening, and they took off the players with speed and technical ability. It just felt like a blunder that at the very end of the game that you had the players that could take advantage of parking the bus, and they were already on the bench.
Yeah, and I mean, shout out to what Pierman did in terms of the game tactics there, where they came out pretty aggressive early on. What you got out of Ikaza in the midfield, constantly tracking anybody who dropped into the opposing half. The guy was a ball of energy all night long. And like, yes, he got the goal, but that was, ironically enough, like that was the minor contribution to everything else he was doing, dropping between the center backs to spray it out as they're building. Like, he was unreal. That second half change to take Fidel Barajas off, get Tristan Traeger onto his true foot on the right, that was really important to this effort. And you mentioned Moses Mensah having to play that kind of wingback role. With what you got from Traeger, with the speed he offers on that same flank, I think it doubled down on the effect of Mensah pushing upfield. You saw Augie Williams make a lot of runs behind Mensah into that channel. The game just opened up for the Battery in a really effective way. I think that's part of the beauty of how this team works, is that Pierman has a couple choices in every spot almost that he can vary how this team is going at you. He can really just like kind of do the business when it comes to what the Legion offer specifically. So I'm bullish on the adjustments that were made, even if the Battery didn't go out and like dominate this game, much as Louisville did against Detroit.
Yeah, I think with all that being said, like, yeah, Birmingham had all those issues and Charleston, really dominated, but it really came down to a kind of a freak clearance that bounces off a player that lands. That's the difference in the scoreline. And so I just think it reiterates that with all of this like prognosticating that we can do and breaking down, that sometimes it just comes back to like a lucky bounce or an unlucky bounce, depending on which team you're rooting for. Could be the difference between at this stage, making it to a finals and hosting if you're one of the teams, or you're on the couch watching the final, not with Nicholas Murray because apparently he gets to travel to finals. But I think this just points out that when we're talking about these playoff games, like those small little moments matter, and just a freak clearance that bounces off of your player is a make or break moment.
And despite not having a shot after, or basically a shot on target after the 64th minute, Birmingham still only took 2 fewer shots in the entire match than Charleston did in total, as the Battery won the shot battle 19-17.
Okay, I'm done with it. In the end, Charleston was just a much better team. I can get into all the nitty gritty details of what all is going on, what with everything else that this had to offer. In the end, Charleston is really good. And you kind of talk about those attacking talents. Barajas not going to be there. But when you have Markanich and Traeger just kind of waiting in the wings, I think you're okay. You're
No
fine.
one talks about the fact that they've just got Arturo Rodriguez tearing it up every week too. Like they're so deep in that spot.
Arturo has been playing more Cam, right? And
Yeah, definitely. And
right
that's
in
his
front
better.
of.
That's his natural spot. Yeah,
But Yakaza, can I say something crazy? If you have a playoff MVP, I think it goes to him right now. He's
I'm with you on that.
been the best player in the playoffs. Just stud. I unless you can think of someone else.
I mean, you can make like a Connor Donovan argument maybe, but yeah, I'm having a tough time disagreeing. Danny Trejo certainly just for the
Yeah.
goals, but he's in the conversation.
Well, look, here we go into deciding who is going to be going to the finals. Whoever, according to us, whoever it is going to be taking on Sacramento. John, who is taking on the Republic?
Yeah, sorry to Louisville, your princess is in another castle because I've got Charleston winning this one.
I'm I'm also going with Charleston here. Yeah, sure. I have no video game reference.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really tough to pick against the Battery in this one, and they've just been the more consistent team this season that we've seen versus a very up and down Louisville side. The one thing I would like to at least point out that I think is interesting in Louisville's history of their previous 8 conference finals is they've never had a one-off appearance. That all of their results they've had in a conference final has been at least a consecutive one. They won their first 2, or sorry, they lost their first 2. They won their next 3, lost their next 2, and they won last year. So if they don't win this one, it'd be the first time that they didn't repeat the same result. But era's come to an end, so Charleston wins.
I'm taking Charleston. I've said it this whole time, and they continue to prove me wrong. I just don't believe in Louisville. I just don't. There's a princess joke, I guess. It's there, but I'm taking Charleston. Fire them out of the cannon. They're going. Well, I guess they'd be going to Sacramento. So yeah, I'm taking Charleston. All that said, let's talk about just unless Alan looks like you have something to say.
I was just gonna say, like every time I see that last name, my brain automatically makes the I an L, and I think it says Vladder, and I'm like
Ladder.
I'm like Vladder the Impaler. Like there's some. I was like, I know that it's not correct, but every time I see it, it's just like it turns into an L for some reason. I was like, I don't know. It throws me for a loop every single time.
I spent about a month thinking that his name was Damia Vader.
Yeah,
just
that's
not
also,
paying attention.
He's someone's father, maybe. Apparently, the teams he plays against.
Whoa. Damia Vampire. That was another good one. Though there were some great ones on the Rondo that, like, if you didn't get on it this week, you're a little late because I don't think you can look at old newsletters unless you already have them. But like, they're so good. They're great. So according to us, congratulations, North Carolina. And on your championship, you just won promotion, as Ryan would say. And it's going to be Sacramento versus Charleston. So congratulations to Charlotte, to Phoenix, and to Louisville City on your amazing victories. We're super proud of you. So
with our track record this playoffs, those teams should be feeling good.
To be fair, the last round we had two picks that were unanimous picks across the board, and we got both of them right. I do want to point that out that when we did the picks last week, that when we said all of us picked Sacramento, Sacramento won. And to everyone in the San Antonio fans in our comments saying, let's see what happens on the weekend.
Yeah,
I wasn't
where's Harry tonight, by the way.
Harry had a rough day on the internet. Let's, I was going to mention it, and then I decided, I'm not going to mention it. But yeah, there was a whole lot of, the Indomitable. They wait till they see a real mentality monster, and yeah, it's fine. Everything's fine. But unless we have any final USL thoughts for the night.
I have one dumb prompt.
Okay.
So this starts with a plug in that Joe from Backfield had a really good interview with Jeremy Allenbaugh, the president of the USL Championship, but he's hinting at the possibility of a new media partner. I have no intel. I mean, Jeremy isn't revealing that right now. I would guess that maybe CBS and Golazo and all that, like, they need the content. It would be a natural partnership. I was wondering if y'all had any thoughts on where things might be headed.
The CW, so I could watch it after my reruns of Gossip Girl.
Back to my Kubo.
It's funny. The Birmingham, maybe I'm wrong, but the Birmingham Legion broadcasts, I think, are on CW. So that's already a thing. That just stays the same. If it is in a new place, I think CBS makes the most sense. But I also think when you're looking at Super League, W League, League One Championship, I would be a little bit surprised if ESPN cuts ties with that unless they're looking at expanding elsewhere. Because they don't have anything else besides FA Cup, Carabao Cup, and
Bundesliga and La Liga.
Bundesliga, La Liga,
ESPN Plus,
and sometimes the Eredivisie. So they don't have domestic anymore because MLS is completely off their radar. They kind of need something US professional base. I wouldn't be shocked if they go back, but they get a more prominent deal where they get more matches on the main channels, where maybe they get League One on some main channels. Maybe they get a Super League in there and it becomes a full league package. I wouldn't be terribly shocked of that.
Yeah. As someone who spends their Saturdays trying to clip game footage, I can tell you I would like for it to stay with ESPN, but that's just the one person niche that I'm in.
It would make it a lot easier. Plus, no blackouts are pretty neat, and I don't know if CBS would institute blackouts or not.
I doubt it.
It's actually how Netflix is going to survive their DVD. They're just going to record the games and send them out on DVD to everybody, and then that's how you can watch them afterwards. Because I'm all about the new media.
They'll CGI the fans into attendance, so we truly won't know until we get the DVD.
Oh, I mean, hey, it's fine. Could you imagine having, it stays with Disney, and all of the matches, all the championship matches are now being hosted in front of Cinderella's castle?
See, this is the kind of thinking we need.
Some poor little kids just trying to watch the fireworks, and it's just me just drunk out of my mind watching Birmingham finally making it to the finals, where dreams really do come true.
This is going to be the new Disney theme park addition to Epcot. Instead of the World Showcase, we're just going to house every single USL team. They're going to get their own home base of operations, and each team will have their own stadium and everything. It'll be the new Disney theme park.
I think we need to go full MLB spring training, where we have the Cactus and the Grapefruit League, and the West just plays in Phoenix, the East just plays in Florida, and that's just what we do.
You mean like what MLS did, where they just played at Disney the whole time? Like they had that whole
the
whole tournament.
Yeah.
MLS is back. I mean, we could do USL is back. They didn't really go anywhere besides the off season.
You and Nicholas made that joke at the exact same moment.
Except he's on a delay, so I think he technically wins, but it's fine.
Well, I mean,
To be fair, not all of USL is back, so let's
Ooh.
well, I mean, having the bubble and the MLS is back at the Disney Wide World of Sports is only like the second and third most important thing that stadium has hosted. I mean, the Disney Channel Games has to be like the most impressive and most important sporting competition that was ever hosted there.
Oh, a USL version of the Disney games. Oh, I would watch it so bad. I mean, now we're just getting into USL All-Star games, but I don't want any soccer. I want tug of war, paintball. I want everything but soccer.
Yes.
Can we do like the American Gladiators one where like someone sits in the tennis ball shooter and then someone else has to like I would love to see USL teams shooting tennis balls at each other.
I think if we're getting full production value into this, every USL team is required to have their own team's version of Survivor. And in order to make the team, it's all trialist and they get voted off. And that's how you make the team, is by Survivor and getting voted off. And through different games, you can get immunity. You scored a goal, you've survived another week, kid. Congrats.
It's like half Hard Knocks, half Survivor.
Look, Nicholas, write this down. You're going to make some money, not a lot, but some of it.
That's why I should have done the Allen Ball interview so I could pitch him.
Which is the exact reason why we were not allowed to do that.
Why we're here, I have some notes.
USL shows Shark Tank edition.
See, this all gets back to, if we are going to a new place, let's say CBS, like, hey, listen, you get the USL show, Walk in 90, League One Under the Sea. You get all of us, and we'll do a college game day. We'll do it. We'll go out to the tailgates. We'll figure it out. We'll come up with fun mini games with the fans. And look, we're not saying it's going to be, media trained, but people will have a great time.
It's like if you had a set of 12 Pat McAfees all running game day.
I wish I had that much testosterone in my body, I'll be honest.
What would we do instead of offering money for kicking a 30-yard field goal? What would be our...
Oh.
The classic MLS, like, run from the halfway line, end of game, extra time thing. That would be the challenge.
That'd be the challenge. What would they win? What can we offer them? I think I will cash out the big bucks and get them about a 6-pack of Bud Heavies. I mean, look, it's more beer than they had before. Congratulations. Score on a mini goal from halfway. I think just outright getting whoever the third goalkeeper is on every single team and just having them go one-on-one with them would just be hilarious. Because most of the time they're not going to get scored on, but every now and then, once every 6 games, a keeper is getting chipped, and we are going to lose our mind. But these are our ideas. Jeremy, if you're listening to this, here you go. Oh, man. I do have a USL thought to quickly prompt. The team that doesn't like to announce anything is more than likely announcing Jerome. Oh my God, Jerome Jones. Is it Jeremy Jones? Oh my God, I was mess up his name. Fuego. We might have a coach.
Oh, Jermaine Jones.
Jermaine Jones. Oh my God, I was everywhere but Jermaine. But they're announcing something on the 6th of November, which the fact that they were announcing anything before March 31st is a miracle. And it's actually a decent name, I'm kind of impressed.
It's an interesting one because he's got like very limited, if any, managerial experience, but at the same time, like it's Jermaine Jones and he has that name recognition. He'll command that level of respect. You figure that he's got here for a reason. Like they're not Fuego. I guess Fuego. Yeah, like I'm trusting the fact that Fuego is taking this decision because they think he's got something as a manager, and it's not just a PR stunt. But there's always the possibility.
It is nice seeing another international manager get a shot in the USL.
Yeah. And to have somebody like a German American, a person of color, to get that opportunity is really fantastic to see no matter what. Like, I don't want to be overly negative just because we like to do that to Fuego a little bit. So I'm bullish on this decision for them, certainly.
He did score 10 goals in 5 appearances for the Ontario Fury indoor soccer team, which I did get to see him play. I think he played the same time Landon Donovan played, or very close, similar. So it's like this like national team resurgence in indoor soccer in Southern California that I was all about. So I am rooting for nothing but success if this is the case.
I just think that the biggest thing, the biggest like we crap on Fuego a little bit is the fact that they're actually announcing something. I think that's what's getting me is that they're being proactive. And this sounds awful. I don't really care who it is. The fact that they're taking initiative and doing this early just makes me excited for Fuego. And hopefully this is kind of turning a new leaf, really getting ahead of the ball and saying we messed up in the past. Let's get ahead of this. We're going to let people know soon. And hey, this also gives Jermaine Jones time to build a squad, actually build something. And that's pretty exciting for Fuego fans.
Definitely.
So, final thoughts for the night, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm running that 5K on Saturday, and I just took a look at the weather that I'm doing it in. It's going to be 7:30 a.m. dark. It's going to be 41 degrees, and it was 41 degrees when I ran earlier today, and I was like, oh, this is what I signed up for. So that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to doing it, though.
See, this is what we're pitching to CBS. It's going to be the POV cam.
If my USL show kit gets here in time, I may or may not run the 5K in that.
We'll take it. Alan?
I am not insane, so I did not sign up for a 5K in freezing temperatures. That's my news.
John?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everyone for bearing with the disgustingly bad Mario-related content that I've put out here today. So appreciate it.
I just gotta know, was this already here or did you order this?
No, I got this at a Party City for like $7 or like a couple weeks ago just for other reasons. And then I figured it would be a nice little addition.
Fair enough. If I didn't just wake up from a flu nap, I would say I'd be wearing something. I didn't teach today because I was very ill. But another part of this that I lucked into, I was supposed to be Sid from Toy Story. And it wasn't great. Yeah, I was wearing a black shirt, black jeans, black pants, and honestly, it just felt like I was back in high school again. So there was something about it. I don't know. But I don't think anybody has anything else. That's all we have. We're at the very tail end of this. So if your team's not in it, reach out to the players, reach out to the club and tell them how much you appreciate them. They would love to hear that this time of year. And if your team is still in this, try to find a way to go to the game. And if you can't go to the game, go to the team sponsored, kind of tailgate thing. Whatever it is, go have a good time. Enjoy the USL. Enjoy each other. Enjoy each other's company. And for the last time tonight, Alan's voice.
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL Show.
The USL Show is now proudly part of the Protagonist podcast family. Please go to protagonistsoccer.com to check out more work. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see everyone again next time.